Hi everyone, my name is Janam and I'm presenting alongside my group members Ashna and Natalia as part of our Week 11 group presentation for Introduction to Management. Today, our group will be presenting Project 6 on Leadership, and our case study is titled Jacinta Arden Leading with Flying Colors. Jacinta Arden is one of the most talked about leaders of the 21st century. As we will see today, her story gives us a fascinating real world lens into which to understand modern leadership theories. I will begin by walking you through the outline of our presentation, then provide a summary of the case study. From there, my group members will take you deeper into the theory and the key lessons we can take away. Before we dive in, let me give you a quick overview of how our presentation is structured. Our presentation is divided into 5 parts. First with me, slide 1 and 2 covers the introduction and this outline you are looking at right now. I will then move on to slide 3, which is the summary of Jacinta Ardern's case study, covering who she is, the key moments that defined her leadership, and why her story matters in the context of management. Following me, Ashna will take us to slide 4, which explores the theoretical underpinning of the case study, the management and leadership theories that help explain Arden's leadership style. And then finally, Natalia will present slide 5, 6, and 7, covering the key findings and practical lessons we can learn, followed by conclusion and a full reference list. So, who exactly is Jacinta Ardern and why is she such a compelling leadership case study? Jacinta Ardern became the leader of New Zealand Labour Party in 2017, with just 7 weeks left before a national election. Despite that incredible short time frame, Labour managed to form a minority government with the support of the Greens and New Zealand First. And in October 2017, Arden became New Zealand's Prime Minister. So, what immediately set her aside apart from other leaders as, was her commitment to bringing her whole self to the role. In her very first year as Prime Minister, she gave birth to her daughter Neve, making her only the second elected world leader in history to give birth while in office. She famously brought her baby to the United Nations General Assembly, which made global headlines. This was not just a personal milestone, it sent a powerful message about inclusive, human centered leadership. But it was in 2019 that Ardern's leadership truly came to the world's attention. In March 2019, a right-wing terrorist attacked 2 mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand, killing 51 people and wounding 50 others. It was the deadliest terrorist attack in New Zealand history. Ardern's response was immediate, empathetic, and deeply humane. She wore a hijab when she met with victims' families. She refused to name the perpetrators publicly. Instead, she directed all attention to the victims' families. She refused to. Uh, in her address to the New Zealand Parliament, she said, and I quote, "They are us," sending a message of unity to the Muslim community. In her response was so widely admired that an image of her embracing a grieving woman was projected onto the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world located in Dubai. Less than a year later, she led the country through another tragedy, a volcanic eruption on White Island that killed 18 people. Once again, she demonstrated calm, compassionate, and decisive leadership. In 2020, Arden's leadership style was tested on a global scale when the COVID-19 pandemic hit. New Zealand adopted what was described as quite the most decisive, strongest lockdown in the world. An elimination strategy and completely stamping out the virus. Arden's communication was clear and accessible. Her advice to the public was simple: be calm, be kind, and stay at home. She held regular Facebook Live sessions from her home, often in casual clothing to connect directly with the New Zealand population. This transparent and reliable communication style built enormous public trust. She also showed she was willing to hold people accountable, including those in her own government. When her health minister breached lockdown rules by taking his family to the beach, she publicly stated she would have him sacked. She chose not to only become she chose not to only because of the disruption it would cause during a health crisis, but she demoted him to the lowest ranking in her cabinet. This balance of compassion and accountability is a key theme in her leadership story. So, what was the outcome of all this? In the 2020 New Zealand general election, Labour won a landslide victory, forming the first majority government in New Zealand since 1996. Voters awarded her victory through one of the most decisive and electoral results the country had ever seen in decades. However, it is also worth noting that leadership is rarely without criticism. Despite her enormous popularity, Arden faced criticism for not delivering some key policy promises, including a plan to build 100,000 homes and the introduction of a capital gains tax, none of which came to fruition. As one critic stated, empathy is only part of the job. This tension between empathetic leadership and delivering tangible outcomes is something we will explore further.
Hi everyone, today I'll be explaining the management theories behind the leadership style of Jacinta Arden, particularly during Christchurch tragedy, her leadership around COVID-19, and her leadership around just making decisions within her political career, especially in the Flying Colors essay. So firstly, we see her leadership strongly demonstrate emotional intelligence, and this involves understanding and managing both her own emotions and the emotions of others. Arden shows her emotional intelligence through her compassion, her communication, and her ability to support grieving communities. This helped build trust and strengthen relationship during a very difficult time. And we saw this by how she was sensitive and empathetic around the situation and around how everything went down. She was also able to reassure the affected families and friends of the victims that they will be supported during the difficult time of grief. We also see that her leadership reflects transformational leadership theory, and this is a type of leader who inspires, motivates people by creating a shared vision and emotional connection. After the Christchurch attacks, her message, "They are us," unifies the nation and encourages solidarity. Rather than focusing only on authority, she brought people together through empathy and purpose. And we see that she genuinely cared about her people. She wasn't there just to be there. She cared about her job. She cared about how her leadership Oh, sorry about that. She did care about her people, and especially people who are going through a hard time or difficult time. We also see how she looked after the country, or even helped the country implement things that helped them during the COVID-19 period, and that includes having the most decisive and strongest lockdown in the world. This was actually identified by the whole world, and we can see how her leadership is influencing and inspiring the whole world to do better, to be better, and to inspire change. And she continues to build trust and foster a shared vision, and she achieved this by uniting the nation during a time of crisis, as we see during the COVID-19 crisis. And we also see that her leadership reflects the human relations approach, which focuses on the importance of people, relations, and well-being, instead of treating leadership as purely task-based. She prioritized emotional support, inclusivity, and connection. We see that by how even the studies by Hawthorne focuses on the importance of social relations, and she was able to do this and achieve this by her compassion and emotional support. So we see, like, even though she was unable to fulfill her promise of delivering 100,000 homes, the people still trusted and believed in her leadership due to the fact that her and her Labour Party won the next elections. And this is just not something easy. This is not something you could pay your way around. This is something that you build, and she built this, and we can see the evidence throughout her leadership. And we also see how her whole self leadership can be linked to authentic leadership theory. She was genuine. She was transparent. She, in the fact that she balanced motherhood and leadership, she also built credibility and trust with the public. And she continued to inspire thousands of people around the world, especially mothers who probably are most likely to let go of their careers or their jobs to stay home to look after their kids. But she showed that even though you're a mother, even though you have other responsibilities, you can still do what you like, what you're passionate about. And we can see that she has so much passion about leading her country, about leadership, and about making a difference and an impact in people's lives. And I'm sure she also did the same as a mother and as a wife. And so overall, we see that her leadership shows effective management is not just about decision making, but about empathy, connection, and inspiring others, especially in a time of crisis. So that's all for my presentation. Thank you for your time and see you next time.
The key findings from this case study highlight that effective leadership today requires more than just technical skills or authority. Instead, it involves a combination of emotional intelligence, clear decision making, and the ability to connect with people. One of the most significant lessons is the role of emotional intelligence in leadership. As demonstrated by Jacinta Arden, empathy and compassion can strengthen trust and unity within people, particularly during times of crisis and challenges that a community will face. Her response to national events showed that acknowledging people's emotions is essential in building credibility and maintaining public confidence. Another important finding is the importance of clear and consistent communication. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Ardern's messages such as encouraging people to be calm, be kind, helped to reduce the uncertainty that lied in the community and overall guided collective behavior. This effectively highlights how communication is not just about delivering the information, but also about influencing how people are going to respond. In addition, this case reinforces the relevance of transformational leadership, as Ardern was able to inspire and unite individuals towards a shared goal. By creating a sense of collective responsibility, she encouraged cooperation and compliance, which were critical in managing national challenges that arose during her time of leadership. Furthermore, this case reflects the principles of human relations theory, which emphasizes the importance of relationships, well-being, and social connection. Ardern's people-centered approach demonstrates that when individuals feel valued and supported, they are more likely to engage positively. However, there is a limitation that must also be acknowledged, because while empathy and connection are powerful to a leadership role, they must also be supported by effective policy outcomes. Criticism that surrounded the unmet housing reforms highlights that leadership must also be balanced with emotional connection and tangible results to show. Overall, the key lesson is that successful leadership requires both human connection and strategic execution for optimal outcomes in the community. To conclude, this presentation has explored the leadership of Jacinta Ardern from multiple perspectives, combining both practical examples and theoretical insights. As discussed earlier, Genome introduced Ardern's leadership journey and her response to major crises, which effectively demonstrated her ability to lead under pressure. Natalia then provided a theoretical foundation, explaining how leadership frameworks help us understand her approach. Collectively bringing these ideas together, it is clear that leadership today is no longer defined solely by authority or having control. Instead, it requires a balance between strategic decision-making and genuine human connection. This case shows that empathy, communication, and authenticity are not weaknesses, but strengths that enhance leadership effectiveness. Jacinta Ardern's leadership effectively showed how talking and connecting with her people proved to have better outcomes during crises. However, linking it back to our limitation, it also does reinforce that these qualities must be supported by consistent performance and measurable outcomes. Looking forward, this has important implications for future leaders, particularly in management and HR roles. Leaders must be adaptable, emotionally intelligent, and capable of building trust, while also remaining accountable and being results-driven. Ultimately, the leadership of Jacinta Arden demonstrates that most effective leaders are those who can connect with people and inspire action, all while delivering meaningful results. These are some of the references that my group and I have utilized in preparing our presentation. And on behalf of my group, I would like to thank you for your time and giving our presentation a listen.